Well, fantasy football season finally here. Here's a few defenses I look to start for week one. The first defense, the New Orleans Saints. So this same team, they got one of the best schedules in all pro football this season. And they are sleeper defense this year coming into the year. So New Orleans this week, a great matchup to kick off the season versus the Carolina Panthers. Right now they got some upgrades. Jonathan Brooks, they drafted, NFL draft. They traded for Deontay Johnson, but Brooks we know is going to be out 3 or 4 weeks. This offensive line, they really didn't much on the offensive line. Is this Carolina Panther team. And this same team, they still got some players led by Jordan on the defensive side of the football. I think they could get to Bryce Young early and often. The last season, it was just a train wreck for Bryce Young where he couldn't do anything right. So right now, New Orleans, they're still out there in 52% of fantasy leagues. And if you're just one of those fantasy owners that stream defenses this week, they're a great stream and a great start versus the Carolina Panthers, where I think they're going to get to Bryce Young early and often. And like I said, not many threats on the offense. Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, their wide receivers. And then at the tight end position, Tommy Trimble and Javion Sanders. But I don't see much going on for this Carolina offense. And I think New Orleans goes out there, get a couple sacks on Bryce Young, force a few turnovers, and they're a good start this week. The next start, the Cincinnati Bengals. So Cincinnati, another DST, just like the mentioned New Orleans Saints. They got a great matchup this week versus the New England Patriots, and they're a streaming option as well. Right now, still out there in 47% of fantasy leagues. And New England's going with the veteran Jacoby Brissett to kick off the season at quarterback. Drake May, obviously, they took in the NFL draft this season. But this offense, they don't really have much going over there as well. They got Brissett, Ramondre Stevenson, who I think is a decent back, Antonio Gibson, then at wide receiver, the Mario Douglas, Jalen Polk, Thornton as well, and Hunter Henry at tight end. So not a lot of players on that team that are known. Not a lot of guys with a track record. And I think the Cincinnati Bengal team, especially home, they're going to get to Brissett early and often. And Brissett, he's not a horrible quarterback, but at this point of his career, he's a veteran, and you know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to turn the football a few times per game. He's going to take some big hits and take some sacks. And I think Cincinnati in this one are going to get to Brissett, and they're going to make this a one-dimensional game. If they get up early and often, then they could tee off on Jacoby Brissett, where they got to force New England to pass the football 35-40 times. So I like Cincinnati as a start this week. Next start, Seattle Seahawks, another streaming option. So this week, some of these streaming options and DSTs that didn't get taken in fantasy drafts are good options with great matchups, with the Broncos coming to town to the 12th man for Seattle. So Seattle out there right now in 77% of fantasy leagues. They could get to the quarterback, obviously, as a Seattle Seahawk DST. And they got a good secondary as well. So Denver with Bo Nix at quarterback, Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin in the backfield. And a wide receiver, pretty much Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and the rookie Frankel. And not much going over there for this Denver Bronco team, where I think Seattle, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Bo Nix in this one. You know, the noise, especially in a home opener and season opener in Seattle, is going to be very loud. And this week is a DST streamer and one of the better starts of the week, I believe. The Seattle Seahawk DST could put up big numbers and help fantasy owners in a big way. The next start, the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys, obviously one of the best defenses in fantasy football last season. And this week, they got a pretty good matchup, I believe, at Cleveland, where I believe both defenses are going to go out there and put on good performances. But we just don't know what we're going to get from Deshaun Watson. He hasn't been 100% the last couple seasons. He had off-the-field issues as well, getting suspended and sat out a whole season. And this Dallas Cowboy team, I know the secondary's a little thin. Trevion Diggs, he's not 100%. DeRon Bland, he's out in this game. Stephon Gilmore, he left in free agency. But when you still got Micah Parsons that could get to the quarterback and make some plays, I think Parsons in this one, he's going to get some pressure on Deshaun Watson in this ball game. Like I said, Watson struggled mightily. I know their offense still has some decent weapons. Jerome Ford filling in for Nick Chubb, who's still out with the ACL, MCL injury. David Njoku, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy on the outside. But I believe this Dallas DST, when you got number 11 Micah Parsons, and he's going to get to Deshaun Watson a few times in this ball game, he can make things happen and make a few plays. And last season, this Dallas Cowboy DST, they made a lot of plays and made things happen. So I think this one at the dog pound in Cleveland is going to be a defensive battle between the two teams. And I like Dallas as a start this week. And the fifth and final DST I like as a start is the Atlanta Falcons. So another DST off the waiver wire and a streaming option. And this season, going into the year, the worst offenses, I believe, are the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, one of the worst offenses, the New York Giants. They're going to be a pretty down offense as well, and the Carolina Panthers. So any week you see one of these defenses versus those teams, they're going to be a good start with this Atlanta Falcon DST available right now in 91% of fantasy leagues if you need a streamer. So Pittsburgh's coming to town. Offense pretty much didn't upgrade at all. At quarterback, they did a little bit going from Kenny Pickett to Russell Wilson in the offseason, even though I believe Justin Fields should be the starter for Pittsburgh. I think they'll get to Russell Wilson at times in this one. We know Pittsburgh, a lot of close games they've played over the last couple seasons where the offense only puts up 16, 20 points per game. And they've grinded them out, no doubt about it. But this Falcon team rejuvenated, and now they got an offense that can move the football down the field with Kirk Cousins, I believe, this season. I think this defense is going to come out. They're going to be riled up. And last season, this defense actually played some pretty good ball. 42 sacks on the year. Week is a 1 week use versus Steeler offense that, like I said, not much is going. Najee Harris, Russell Wilson, George Pickens, I think it's a good receiver, Pat Freiermuth. But besides that, some of those guys are inconsistent as well. So I think Atlanta could go out there and have a good ball game. So that's a few defense DST units I'll look to start for week 1 of the fantasy football season.